Welcome to Therapy Talk. I'm Michael Baltimore. I'll spend a little bit of time today talking to some of our counselors in training, or maybe this could be helpful to some other folks as you're tuning in to Therapy Talk. And really our focus is on the guidelines for early sessions. And there's 8 things I want to talk about in those early sessions, particularly for the counselors as they're entering in training and beginning the practicum and internship, and even afterwards. I think it's very important. So here are 8 ideas that I want you to keep in mind. And this first one is very important. And this is, when in doubt, listen. You know, there can be all kinds of things going on in a session. Certainly you want to pay attention to everything. You're certainly listening, but in those moments, if you've really done a good job of active listening, you're going to be able to supply some information, maybe ask another question, do some other things, but only when you fully listen. So when there's doubt about what to do in the first part of the session, or even in the later part of the session, certainly you want to practice this listening mode. So number 2, interact unapologetically. All right, so someone said your best qualities need to be available to you when you're in the session. So this interaction really is part of the support and challenge that we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, number 3 on the list is offer appropriate hope. You know, for most people coming in, they are in need of some hope in their situation. Maybe they can work through some kinds of things. Now, you don't want to go too far with that, and certainly there's some ethical issues if you go say we can help you and we will do these things. But offering appropriate hope means that you set the expectations within the appropriate limits, and you can really set sort of the parameters of the session in that way. Now, another thing for therapists to be aware of in these early sessions is that you need to negotiate when possible. This notion of give and take, I think, is a very important part of therapy. The idea that this is a mutual respect situation, one in which there is give and take in a manner that you keep things back and forth, and certainly show respect to the client, and then that process will begin to continue. Now, here's a very, very important one, and this is, and I tell this to all the students in our counseling program, mix empathy and challenge. The notion that some beginning therapists, for example, will say things and do things as if, okay, we talked enough, now let's get down to work, or we can have some fun and be chatty over here, and now we have to do something serious. But what I think is that there is not there's not polar opposites with this notion of empathy and challenge, of support and challenge. Those two are the same thing, and you can work, and some of the master therapists can work to get to a place where you're both supporting, but you have to challenge the client, and you're doing it in a way that's respectful and helpful to them. Now, number 6, set concrete limits when appropriate. There are times when the client is looking to you for some information about how to operate and what is appropriate. And I think sometimes you have to say that this is where I'm coming from. This is the limit that we need to look at. It might be helpful to the client. Now, number 7, ally yourself with the client's strengths. That alignment, that connection with what is really working well for the client is going to help them in the times when they have stress in their lives and are able to face those stressors with the strengths that they have. So always look for strengths with the client. Now, finally, in this list of guidelines for early sessions is the indicate a willingness to learn. Someone said that the client is the expert in their world, and as a professional helper, what we have to do is to really pay attention. Remember that first guideline of when in doubt, listen, and really be there for the client. You may be the expert on the therapy part and with your training, but it's the client who's the expert on themselves and in their world. Well, there are 8 guidelines for early sessions. I hope they've been helpful to you. I want to thank you for tuning in, and we're going to come back more and more with these brief therapy talk moments to give you some insight into what's going on in the world of professional counseling and therapy and what it's like to be in a therapy session. And if you have any ideas, some questions, or things you'd like for us to talk about, you can email us at shows@ coehp.tv. Anytime, we'd be happy to have your correspondence there. And we want to thank you for tuning in. Well, this has been another episode of Therapy Talk. Hope you have a good day.